Welcome to the Exam Study Expert Podcast, helping you ace your exams at school and university through the psychology of high performance and the science of studying smarter, not harder. It's my pleasure to introduce your host, the Cambridge-trained memory psychologist and exam success coach, William Wadsworth.
Hello and welcome to the Exam Study Experts podcast. Today I'm joined by force of nature David Hyner, whose towering reputation has been built over many decades as a speaker and a trainer in various settings, including in schools up and down the UK, which is how I first got to know him. Today, we're getting real about what effective goals really are. Spoiler alert, it's not SMART goals. Thank goodness, because I'd never really felt in my heart that those were... they just never really resonated for me, if you know what those are. If you don't know what those are, then stay tuned. We'll get into that. So we're getting real on what effective goals are really all about and how to go about breaking them down so that you can actually achieve them. Another little spoiler alert. David will be amazing today for helping you to really stretch your ambitions, helping you to, in his words, avoid settling for average. But this also comes with a slight health warning, so to speak, because I know that some of you, and you know who you are, I hope, are already putting yourself under really considerable pressure. David's material on how to break down an ambitious goal and start working towards it is certainly going to be helpful to you too. But I'd also love for you to make a point of tuning back in again tomorrow, if you can, when I'll be sharing a brief word on essentially how you're already doing enough. And I think that's going to be a really important message for some of you to hear to complement everything you're going to hear today. So I'm really excited to welcome David to the stage. Without further ado, David, a very massive warm welcome to the Exam Study Experts podcast.
My name's David Hyner. I'm a researcher and a professional speaker on the subject of goal setting and personal effectiveness.
David, it's such a pleasure to have you on the show. A very warm welcome.
Thank you.
So tell me about goal setting. Where did your goal setting journey start?
I'm not proud of where it started, William, because it started with me believing other people who said your goals should be realistic and achievable. The famous acronym used in goal setting is SMART. Yeah. And most people even get that acronym mixed up and confused as well. So SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-focused. Sadly, they think that realistic goals comes from SMART, and SMART apparently was invented by some guy called Peter Drucker a long, long time ago, and it wasn't. It was actually created by a guy called George T. Duran, a project manager in the United States who worked on multi-billion-dollar water utility projects, and he never once said your goals should be SMART. What he actually said was, when working on really big goals, the steps to your goal should be SMART. When I discovered this, I started interviewing as a hobby only really successful men and women. I call them top achievers. And that turned into an obsession. My wife would say I became evangelistic about it. And over the last 25, nearly 26 years, I've had the privilege of interviewing 258 top achieving men and women from virtually every walk of life you could shake a stick at, from all over the world. And I've been told by many people at universities that I'm possibly one of the few people alive, if not the only person alive, to have done as much research into goal setting as I have.
That's very exciting that we can explore some of that expertise together today.
Yeah.
That's an enormous amount of work. So, what was it that you felt? What was it that didn't quite sit right with you about the kind of SMART framework? Because it sounds like you may have had some doubts sort of early on that prompted you to go on this research voyage.
I realised that I wasn't afraid of failing. I was afraid of mediocrity. My whole life, my existence was around just fit in, don't stand out, just get through it. Whereas I was a dreamer. I had big goals, plans, dreams, ideas, aspirations, but had achieved nothing at all of any significance. It was only when all of these super successful men and women were saying, I don't set smart goals. I do not set realistic targets. I set massive is the most common word used in their answers, massive goals. I went, well, perhaps I need to change my thinking then. And I'll be honest, I was terrified, William, because back then I was two things. I was immature and I was a coward. I'm still immature, but no longer a coward. And I just decided, I woke up at sadly the age of 30 and realised that I need to set bigger goals. And the very first attempt at goal setting I did, we broke the fundraising records of Cancer Research UK.
Wow.
And my friend and I raised £288,000 in one event.
Wow.
And a bit like what you do with students, your wonderful work, I'm sure you get them to, as soon as they evidence once to themselves they can do this, they have a belief system they can, rather than one that says, I probably can't, so I won't bother.
Yeah.
And that's all I needed. One big win, and I was off.
Yeah. So what happened next?
What happened next was I started setting some bigger goals for myself. I was told by an English teacher I'd never write a book, so I wrote 30, 5 of them Amazon subject number ones.
Wow.
I was told by my head teacher to sit down and shut up, and no one's going to pay me to speak. So I became an international professional award-winning speaker to 1.2 million people in paid speaking engagements. I was told I wasn't good enough to go to college, so I went to college. I became an award-winning royal chef. I sold my catering business, started becoming a professional speaker, and just all the things I've managed to do in the last 26 years have only been because I set massive goals. And my privilege, like you experience in every week, William, is that we go into education and try and help young adults to think and behave around truth rather than assumptions. Because the truth is that they're better than they think they are.
Talk a little bit about what you see in the students you work with before you take them on this journey.
When we go into schools, I see fear. Especially in the last 2 or 3 years, there seems to be this epidemic of malaise. I can't be bothered. They're quieter. They're more withdrawn. They're not so gung ho. Let's have a go at this. And so we have to work twice as hard to get them to interact with us. And that then leads into the kind of aspirations they have. I don't know geographically how far afield you work, William, but
all around the world.
All around, fantastic.
As far as the podcast is concerned.
Yeah. So, I mean, I see in some of the rural towns students who their aspiration is to never leave the town. Some of them have literally never got on a bus outside of their town. Whereas you'll bump into the odd student whose adventure is to travel the world, become a multimillionaire, become an academic, and I go, well, whoa, why is it different for some than others? And I'm sure we have life experiences, situations that form our belief systems. But if we can switch them to whatever they do, think bigger, they are more likely to achieve more. So in the subject of studying for exams, a mixture of your study skills, work and memory skills with our goal setting process anchors a continual little drip of realistic and achievable wins to a much bigger result. If teachers tell students, oh, you're an expected grade 4-5, most young people assume, therefore, that must be true.
So this is on the UK GCSE system, where 4-5 is sort of like, it's sort of mediocre to sort of
Yeah.
sort of average-ish, maybe a little bit below average, sort of C kind of grade. Yeah.
And I wish everyone could have seen your face then, William, when you were talking average, because we screw our face up. No one ever sets out to be average. And, we don't wash our face in the sink in the morning, look in the bathroom mirror and go, hey, today I'm going to be average at best. Everybody wants to be good, better, great, awesome, amazing. The problem is that we settle into just fitting in to survive school or college or university. So what we try and do is, again, reinforce to people that they should stop fearing failure and instead set big goals and fear mediocrity and being average. The more they fear just fitting in, the more likely they are to try and get away from that rather than the fear of failure. So they'll go towards the massive goal. Yeah. And the crucial element that really helps people to set a bigger goal in the first place is, and I don't wish to sound passé here, but you must have a reason why. So for students, have a reason why you must get a great grade in that exam, and this reason why must be bigger than your fear or insecurity around studying for it. Because if you've got a reason, a goal in life, whether it to be a surgeon, an engineer, an architect, a teacher, a carrot, whatever your goal is in life, if you've got a reason to do it, you are more likely to not give in. Every time we do get knocked down, we do get a bad result in a test or whatever, instead of going, oh, well, I tried, and walking away, which increasingly we tend to do as a race, instead, we'd stand up, brush ourselves down, look the problem in the eye and go, is that all you've got, mate? And we go again and again and again because we've got the resilience, because we've got the belief in why we're doing this. There's a cause, a flag to rally behind. And sorry if I'm sounding a bit overdramatic, but it really can be that empowering to people.
Do you have any advice for finding your why when it's perhaps not immediately obvious, or finding a strong enough why when it feels like your current why is a bit flimsy?
Okay, again, this is a very good and quite a deep question, because yes, we can help people find their why, but they've got to be honest with themselves. Many people will come to me, especially students in colleges, universities, high schools. They'll say, but I don't know what I want. Now, that is something that too many people use as an excuse. It's an assumption, because when I ask 2 or 3 questions that probe a bit deeper, it transpires that most of those people, not all, there are a small percentage who genuinely haven't got a Scooby-Doo what they want to do in life, but most of these people have actually got lots of ideas, and what they are is afraid to have a go at any of them in case they're the wrong thing, because they have a fear of failure. So what I do is I get them to do, Peter Thompson taught me a great exercise called the White Room. You write down all of your opportunities on a piece of paper. You then get another piece of paper, and you can only take half into the next room. And then you get another piece of paper. You can only take half of those into the next room until you've got just 1 or 2 left. And then you go deep on those 1 or 2, and you will discover that either A, one of them is absolutely right for you, or both of them aren't. In which case you go back a room, pick another one, and eventually you'll find the thing that's right for you. The most dangerous thing in the world for young people entering the world out of education is to not find out what's right for you. Too many people go to their graves worrying if what they've been doing all their life has been the right thing for them. And when all they'd had to have done is, instead of procrastinate and not take action out of fear, would be to actually go, I don't know what I want. These are all my options. Let's pick one, go deep on it, see if it's right. And if it's not, let it go. Next. So it is the taking action that overcomes the fear of procrastination. Too many people just press pause.
If you're standing in front of 2 mountains and wondering which one's the right one to try and climb, you can stand there and wonder for all you like, or you can try going up one, and if it turns out not to be the right one, come down and go up the second one instead. And if you're still standing there, I'll be halfway up the second one by the time So,
100%. I mean, you use the mountain metaphor. One of the people I interviewed was a guy called Nigel Vardy. His unfortunate branding is Mr. Frostbite because he fell off Mount McKinley and got frostbite, nearly died, was told he'll never walk again. He ended up being the first Briton and the first disabled person to climb the 7 highest mountains of the world. He's a remarkable man. And I said, Nigel, how come you don't die on mountains? He said, because I keep making decisions. He said, if you're in a precipice and you're faced with hypothermia, death, and an avalanche, if you stand still, only one outcome: you're going to die. He said, keep making decisions. You can always correct, but if you don't make decisions, you get run over. You die.
Yeah. Well, if that's not a why, I don't know what is. So we're starting to get some idea of where we're aiming for. What happens next in terms of setting our massive goal for ourselves?
So the next thing is to, once you've set a massive goal and you've got a reason why that motivates you, the why that gets you out of bed on a Sunday morning at 5 a.m. to read that book or to do your memory journal, or the thing that really pushes you. Next thing is to brainstorm a list of all the things you've got to do to achieve that goal that you can think of. Now, if this sounds cheesy, I refuse to apologize, because the next 2 steps are critical to the mission. You must write a list of, no matter how big and scary the task or how small and obvious and inconsequential you assume it is, write the list and then prioritize the list. So you might do a massive goal to get a grade 9 in maths, or a first degree at Cambridge in philosophy, or whatever the goal is. Write down a list of everything you can think of you've got to do to achieve the goal. Then, many people do that. Not many people do the next thing. You prioritize the list. You number it, or you number everything on the list from start to finish, with number 1 being the most important, scary, or mission-critical task. So you number the whole list with number 1 being the most important. Then, for those listening, imagine a pyramid with lots of blocks in. So for the video, I'm just going to now show William my very first pyramid. Okay, it's just a triangle with lots of rows full of blocks, obviously with a point at the top. There's a pointer to this, and I'm showing William my very first pyramid that I set to raise £50,000 for cancer research in one event. We failed dismally. We only raised £288,000 in our first attempt. And in the next 10 years, used our silly little pyramids to travel the world, having adventures of the lifetime, raising over £1 million for charity, breaking 4 charity fundraising records. So I'm now showing an 11-year-old schoolgirl's pyramid. And she used this pyramid, and it was full of rows and blocks. She used brightly coloured pens and ink, which is wonderful. And she used this pyramid to start a little business.
Nice.
And in 12 years, her website made her between £70 and £700 a week profit.
Wow.
She did not leave university 50 grand in debt.
No.
Now, I suggest people draw a really big pyramid on a big piece of paper or cardboard, brightly coloured pens, and it doesn't matter how many rows or blocks in, as long as you've got a lot more blocks in your pyramid than you've got things on your list. The reason for that, William, is so that you haven't thought of everything at the beginning. Other things will crop up, or things you'll want to drill deeper down on. So rather than rewrite a whole plan, all you'll do is populate an empty box with a task. So you take your list and you take number 1 task and write it in the bottom row left-hand block. So you literally fill the pyramid from bottom upwards with the most important tasks in the bottom rows and blocks. These are your foundations. There is a reason for this. And if anyone's thinking to themselves, Dave, this is simplistic, no, it's simple. Everything I've learned from 258 top achievers is simple. They do it because it works. I was looking for the complicated, and I was missing that all they did was set massive goals, write a list, prioritize it, and then take action. Because if anybody here does a to-do list for themselves, what most of us do, because we're shallow, insecure, and pathetic, is we'll look down the list and go, I can get that done, quick win. We go off, get it done, come back, cross it off, feel good. We like crossing off. We then look down the list, next easy thing, go and get that done, cross it off. We now feel smug. Then, when William's not looking, we'll write something on the list we've already done, just so that we can cross it off. And then at the end of the day, or the week, or the term, you've got the sprouts left to eat on your to-do list. And that's why we don't achieve big. We're so busy with minutiae and mediocrity instead of focusing on the big tasks. This way, if you're still with me on the pyramid, if you focus like a laser beam for just 5 to 10 minutes a day, doing everything you can in that 10 minutes to cross off or go towards crossing off the most important task, and every day try and do something towards crossing off one of these blocks and work bottom up, because if you start doing the easy tasks first, your pyramid won't stand up, hasn't got foundations. So it's a visual reference to keeping your focus on the priority tasks. So if you imagine a maths GCSE pyramid, it might have in it algebra, fractions, trigonometry, circumferences.
Different topics. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. With the things that scare you the most in the bottom blocks. On the second row, we might have some of your fantastic study skills and memory skills to employ, and cue cards, BBC Bites, whatever. And you just prioritize this pyramid and then take action on the hardest things first. And again, simple. The reason we do that is because then when everybody else's goal is getting harder, yours therefore can only get easier.
Yeah.
And that is massive goal setting in a nutshell.
That's fantastic, and I really like how we break it down. We prioritize. We start with the stuff that we most need to do, and sometimes it's easier to let it slip to the bottom of the list, so we don't do it. That's great.
And the beauty of it, my friend, is that you can use it just for passing a GCSE or a weekly to-do list, or you truly can use these pyramids for massive goals. We've had students, I'm not even talking about the business people I work with and companies, just students. We've had students become Amazon #1 authors, millionaires while still in education with their own business. Thousands of students go up 1 to 4 grades inside 4 months, having fun doing it. And the things that they've achieved, other than my family, it's the thing I'm most proud of. So anybody can do this. Anybody.
Amazing. So I have 2 questions about the specifics of the massive goal we've put at the top. So it's sort of what we're aiming for right at the top. And we did touch on this briefly, but I had a couple of sort of follow-up questions. So a couple of the dimensions of goal setting that people sometimes wrestle with are, number one, how challenging, how stretching to make your goal. On the one hand, do you make it a goal that is achievable, attainable, something you can do, and
you know where this is going, William,
and avoid the risk of missing your goal and feeling demoralized? Or do you make it something that's very stretching, where you feel there might be a chance that you miss it, and you worry that you might feel demoralized and bad about yourself if you miss it? And then number 2, do we focus on outcome, in other words, the grade, passing the exam, or do we focus on process? In other words, what is my task? How am I going to do it? You mentioned that idea of, okay, well, I'm just going to take 10 minutes every single day, focus intently on progressing. Do we focus day to day more on the 10 minutes a day, the process, or do we still check in with that outcome, however big or small we've made it?
Okay, I'll answer the second thing first, and you might have to remind me of the first thing. So the second thing is, I would say, once you've set the massive goal and got excited by it, then focus on the minutiae tasks, the day-to-day strategy and process, whilst focusing on the why you're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you do a test and get it scored and you don't do very well, go straight to the why.
Yeah.
Why am I doing this? Makes you get back on the horse, going 5 to 10 minutes a day, giving everything. I call it going rhino, charging at it, giving everything you got for just 10 minutes a day. If you fail for the first 2 or 3 days, don't give in, have the resilience, because you've got the why. I must not give in because this is why I'm doing it. So focus on the why, the small steps, the process and strategy. Once you've set the massive goal, go for it. If I remember rightly, the first one was around
I suppose
just how big a stretch should it be?
Like, let's be honest, we are a podcast which produces advice about how to pass your exams. We have some pretty ambitious listeners. I think a lot of them have quite high goals for themselves. And, I think there's sometimes a tension between how much do I set myself up for like a really, really big goal versus, should I rein it in slightly and make it something that is more likely that I will achieve it? What happens if I don't quite hit my goal of, I've set this massive goal of getting all 9s for my GCSE or getting a first class degree from Oxford or whatever, and I end up with a 2-1. Do I then feel a bit bad about myself? I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
There are two parts to this, and the first one is very much subject to who you are as an individual. Your level of emotional intelligence and resilience. If you're someone who crumbles very easily, loses motivation and confidence very easily, then maybe consider setting a bit of a stretch goal, but not a truly massive, scary goal. But even then, let me ask you, William, if you have got a massive goal, and you write down the list, prioritize it, and if you were able to look at every single block in your pyramid with a task in it and say to yourself, is that task by itself both realistic and achievable? Actually, the only thing that would ever stop you is hard work.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of poof thing that people get. Once they've drawn their pyramid, I say, is the goal massive? Yeah, scary, big, ooh. But is every single task realistic and achievable? They go, yeah. So what's actually stopping you? And they go, oh. No. So to try and answer it a little more clearly, there's a cliche that, you shoot for the moon and you'll end up among the stars, set big goals. I'm a bit more pragmatic than that. What I would say is if you are resilient, set yourself a colossal goal, perhaps 2-3 times bigger than the goal you would normally set yourself. But then if you plan to achieve that goal, if not all of the steps by themselves are per se realistic and achievable, the likelihood of you smashing the original target is massive. You are more likely to crash through your original target. Might you not achieve the truly enormous goal you've set yourself? Yes. But if you smash your original target, have you got a problem with that? If your ego is wrapped up in I must achieve the specific goal I set myself, then maybe you should really look at the goals you set, and for you, maybe consider a more realistic goal. But I would, and because what's realistic and achievable to you, William, to me might seem massive, and vice versa. So we must never assume that our goal isn't massive. If it's massive for you, it's massive for you. For you in maths, a massive goal could be something really out there. For me, honestly, based upon my awkward school experience of maths, for me, a massive goal would be understanding how to do fractions and algebra.
Sure.
But the opposite is true. There's probably something that you'd go, oh, Dave, and I'd go, realistic and achievable, William. So it's all relative. So understand yourself first. And if you are a little bit perhaps more fragile when it comes to resilience, set yourself a more realistic goal, but a bit of a stretch. But if you're the kind of person who goes, you know what, I like that. That's my target, but I'm going to set the bar and plan for 2 or 3 times bigger than that, work it all out, go for it. I'm yet to have anybody in 23 years of presenting this process, anybody come back and say, I didn't smash my original target.
Amazing. Fantastic. Look, David, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It has been a huge pleasure chatting to you. I'm excited to go away and set some massive goals myself. And I just wanted to ask, before we wrap up, if you had kind of one bit of, I guess, pithy advice you wanted to leave our listeners with, how would you kind of sum all this up? What would you want to tell people?
I would say that our assumptions about what we're capable of stop us achieving most of what we're capable of. So stop basing your actions, behaviours on what you think or assume and go and find out what's true. When people start finding out what's true, they find out if they want something badly enough. And if they want something badly enough, there is truly very little stopping us getting it. That and just be nice.
That and be nice. I love that. Definitely. Fantastic. Look, David, before I let you go, where can people find out more about the world of David Hyner and setting massive goals and all the other things you do?
Thank you for asking. I'm on LinkedIn. My website is davidhyner.com. In the education sector, it's stretchdevelopment.com. If anybody genuinely would like some information on massive goals, I can link you to my video course. Just message me, contact me, send a carrier pigeon, scream with flags from the top of a mountain. Just get hold of me and I will happily help you in any way I can.
Amazing. David, thank you so much. Well, thank you, David, for that wonderful conversation. It's so nice to get into goal setting and have a chat with someone who's really thought about how to set proper goals and not just the old SMART goal system, which, as I said before, has never really sat well with me. So it was really, really good to hear David's perspective on setting massive goals and his system for how to tackle them. Now, as I mentioned in the intro, I'm conscious that for some of you, the issue may almost be in the opposite direction. You don't need to stretch yourself any further. You are already putting yourself under immense pressure and stretching yourself very, very hard. For you, if that resonates, if that description resonates, I would love you to tune back in again tomorrow. I'm going to release an extra little bonus episode, almost as like a kind of counterweight to this episode. Not because I disagree with anything David says, but just because I know there are some people out there listening who may need almost the opposite message, the message that you are enough, you are doing enough, and it's going to be okay, and the best results will come for you if we can find a way to help you work in a more balanced way. So please do join me again tomorrow if that sounds useful. For now, though, just wanted to take this opportunity to wish you every success in your studies. It's been great to have you with us today, and I'll be rooting for you, as always, in your exams and assignments and whatever else you've got going on at the moment. Wishing you every success. You've got this.
Wasn't that wonderful? If you're feeling inspired, why not leave us a rating and a review in your podcast app? It would make our day. Thanks again for listening, and see you soon.